Most people trying to build muscle are eating too little protein, but here's the twist that catches almost everyone off guard. Eating too much doesn't speed things up either. There's a hard ceiling, and blowing past it just turns expensive chicken breast into very expensive urine. So here's the question that actually matters. If you're in your 40s or 50s, you're showing up to the gym, you're eating reasonably well, why does it feel like your body quietly handed in its resignation letter sometime around your last birthday? Alan Ritchson, the guy who plays Jack Reacher on Amazon Prime, a character the books describe as a 6'5", 250-pound human wrecking ball, had to solve that exact problem on a production deadline. Now let's see how this goes. He had a start date and a camera. And the approach he and his team used lines up almost exactly with what exercise science has been building toward for years. We're going to break down the 5 things that actually drove his results. And one of them, which we'll get to in a moment, has nothing to do with the gym at all. Here's what actually matters underneath that number. A study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that spreading protein evenly across 4 or 5 meals produced significantly better muscle protein synthesis than piling it into 1 or 2 big feedings. The reason is pretty straightforward. Your muscles can only absorb and use so much protein per meal, roughly 0.4 grams per kilogram of body weight per sitting. Eat more than that in one go and your body just burns the excess for energy. It's not stored as bonus muscle, it just leaves. For a 180-pound person, the research-backed sweet spot lands around 130 to 180 grams of protein per day total, spread across meals, not hammered into a single post-workout shake while standing over your kitchen sink. Here's the part that surprises most people over 40. Researchers at McMaster University discovered that as we age, our muscles become less efficient at responding to protein. They called it anabolic resistance, which sounds like a supervillain power, but is really just your body getting pickier about how it uses what you feed it. The fix isn't giving up. It's eating a slightly higher dose of protein per meal, not just overall. You're not broken. Your muscles just need a clearer signal. This is where a lot of guys, and honestly a lot of women too, are quietly leaving muscle on the table every single week. Ritchson worked with a trainer who built his program around high-volume, moderate weight training rather than grinding through heavy powerlifting sets. And if your gut reaction to that is weight, shouldn't he be moving massive weight to get that big? That's the exact assumption the research has been dismantling for years. A 2017 meta-analysis in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research looked at 21 separate studies and landed on a clear finding. For muscle size specifically, not strength, not performance, just size, total weekly volume is what drives growth. That means sets multiplied by reps. The actual load was far less important than almost everyone assumed. Here's the practical version. 3 sets of 15 at a moderate weight triggers muscle growth, just as well as 3 sets of 5 with heavy loads, as long as you're pushing close to failure either way. That's genuinely good news if your knees have started filing formal complaints every time you take the stairs. Wait, really? Yes. A study in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise showed that lighter loads taken to muscular failure produced equivalent muscle growth to heavier loads. If you've got wear on your shoulders, your hips, your lower back, you don't have to keep white-knuckling through heavy sets to make progress. That's not an excuse to coast. It's permission to train smarter. You know that feeling when you're dragging yourself through a Wednesday workout, you slept maybe 5.5 hours, you've had 2 cups of coffee and you're still not sure you're fully conscious, and the whole session just feels like you're moving through wet cement? There's a reason for that. And it goes deeper than just feeling tired. Your pituitary gland releases roughly 70% of your daily growth hormone during deep sleep, specifically during slow-wave sleep cycles. A study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that when people cut their sleep from 8.5 hours to 5.5 hours over just 2 weeks, the proportion of weight loss coming from actual fat dropped by 55%. Worse, they lost more muscle in the process. Same diet, same basic activity, just less sleep. For anyone in the 35 to 60 range, this is where things get a little uncomfortable. Growth hormone output declines naturally with age. So every hour of poor sleep isn't just leaving you groggy, it's actively eating into a resource your body already produces less of. Chronic sleep deprivation is essentially a tax on every workout you do, collected before you even walk through the gym door. One practical note here: magnesium glycinate taken before bed has shown in research from the Journal of Research in Medical Sciences to improve slow-wave sleep quality, the exact stage tied to growth hormone release. It's not a miracle supplement. It's just one of the few things in this space with real mechanistic support behind it, and it costs about $12. To build the size Reacher required, Ritchson was eating in a deliberate caloric surplus. That part isn't surprising. What's worth paying attention to is how much of a surplus, because this is where most people quietly go off the rails. Picture this. It's January, you've committed to a bulk, and by March you've gained 12 pounds but your pants don't fit, and maybe 4 of those pounds were actually muscle. That's not a hypothetical, it's the standard outcome when people take eat more too literally. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition supports what sports scientists call a lean bulk, a surplus of just 200 to 300 calories above your daily maintenance. That modest cushion produces nearly the same muscle gains as larger surpluses, with dramatically less fat accumulation along the way. Eating 700 calories over maintenance doesn't build muscle faster. It mostly just builds a more complicated cut in the spring. For someone in their mid-40s who wants to add lean tissue without undoing their belt buckle situation, this is probably the most immediately actionable thing in this whole video. 2 weeks of tracking to find your maintenance number, then add 200 to 300 on top. Stay there. Be patient. Patience, genuinely, is doing more work here than any supplement on the market. Everything we've talked about, the protein distribution, the volume training, the sleep, the modest surplus, it all adds up to roughly nothing without this one principle underneath it: progressive overload. Ritchson's program was built around foundational compound movements: squats, deadlifts, presses, rows, and every single week, the program asked slightly more of his body than the week before. That's the whole mechanism. A review in the British Journal of Sports Medicine confirmed that progressive overload is the most consistently supported principle in all of resistance training research. Your muscles don't grow from a great workout. They grow from a sustained pattern of workouts that keeps raising the bar just a little. Here's where most people stall out, and it's not because their bodies stopped working. It's because their training stopped progressing. Showing up 3 days a week and doing the same weights for the same reps for 6 months isn't building anything. It's just expensive maintenance. Adding even 2.5 pounds to a lift per week sounds trivial. Over a year, that's a 130-pound increase. Compounding works in the gym exactly the same way it works in a savings account. What Ritchson built for Reacher wasn't the result of some elite secret. It was 5 well-understood principles executed without shortcuts. Protein spread across the day. Volume-focused training that works with your body instead of grinding it down. Sleep treated as seriously as any workout. Caloric surplus that's actually modest. And progressive overload applied week after week without negotiation. So here's the question we'll leave you with of these 5 things. Which one are you actually doing consistently right now? And which one are you the most guilty of skipping? Tell us in the comments. The answers are always more honest than people expect.